welcome to this evening's webinar. My name is Josef Lentsch. I'm the founder and CEO of Partisan and the Political Tech Summit. We are very much looking forward to this next 60 minutes, where we look at the hybrid influence in the Moldovan elections 2025. There's a new report that has been published quite recently, and we'll look at that. I'm happy to have a very competent panel with me tonight. There's Andra Lucia Martinescu from the Prompt.eu consortium, and she has been one of the co-authors of the forensic analysis report. Also with us is Marius Dima, who's also a co-author and with the Prompt.eu consortium. And there's Biro Attila, who is, it's actually Attila Biro, right?
Either way, it's fine. So Biro Attila, it's fine.
There's Attila, who's an investigative journalist from the OCCRP and Context.ro. We are looking at what happened because as we saw at the Moldovan elections and of course following the Romanian elections, we saw that hybrid interference is no longer a future threat or a dystopia for the years to come, but it is actually already happening in Moldova. It has already determined what millions of voters see, believe, and share. And tonight we will unpack actually how that happened, how the elections unfolded. The Prompt.eu forensic analysis mapped more than 5,000 posts across Telegram, TikTok, Facebook, X, VK, and YouTube. And so we're very much looking forward to your thoughts and insights. I will in a moment hand over to you, Andra, Lucia, and your colleagues. But let me just remind the audience that this evening's webinar is recorded, so it will also be made available to our community of thousands of political professionals across Europe. And of course, you have the opportunity to ask questions, to contribute comments and thoughts. There's the Q&A open, but there's also the chat open, so please feel free at any point to jump in. Don't wait for the end. Don't wait for me to bring you in. Please feel free to jump in and I will try to bring you on board wherever it might fit. All right. First of all, let's start with the report. Can you describe to us what the methodology was behind the report? What platforms you looked at, what data, and what timeframes you examined. Andra, Lucia, would it be one for you?
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity, Joseph. It's great. It's great to be here and present some monumental work which wouldn't have been possible without joining the expertise of research, investigative journalism, and tech. So we're all here. Well, we have to understand that hybrid operations and hybrid interference is a very meticulous affair. So when we joined the PROM consortium and we started our research on Moldova, we observed dynamics and we started data collection and monitoring beginning of June. On the 1st of June, we started observing patterns, coordination patterns, and seeing based on keywords what sort of data needs to be collected and across what platforms. We gathered, so basically our methodological approach was quite phased. We wanted to see first the infrastructures. What are the platforms? What are the algorithmic enablers that provide this diffusion to coordinated influence campaigns. And then we also examined the operational layer, the TTPs, the tactics, techniques, and procedures. How are these information campaigns conducted? What are the strategies and tactics behind them? And then moving on from that one, we identified the strategic layer. What is the intent? What do they seek to achieve? And perhaps not using too much jargon, but I guess one of the overall objectives, and we have to keep this in mind, was participatory deterrence. delegitimizing the ballot before it's even cast, trying to dent and manipulate people's trust in the very process, in the integrity of democratic procedures and techniques. And also to dissuade the population, to demobilize civic participation from this space, to infect the entire public discourse and the information space with this type of disinformation and narratives. And perhaps the most what we've noticed from the operational behavior was that most of the time the narratives were seeded on Telegram, on very well-known compromised accounts associated with the Russian state, but not only limited to it. Then with proxy influencers that were dispersed transnationally. And from there, migrating onto Facebook, onto Twitter, X, onto TikTok, and TikTok provided that mobilization layer, the effective mobilization, because the engagement metrics, for instance, the impressions, the likes, the views, were the highest on TikTok. So we're not talking only about dispersion across one platform. We are talking about gaming the algorithms on each single platform that itself serves a function. So it's important to keep this in mind when analyzing hybrid interference campaigns. And also was most interesting because we got to test lots of software, not only for data collection, but for real-time validation and identification of coordinated behavior. That means accounts posting the same content in a coordinated manner with a highest geographical scope possible. So we're not talking about targeting Moldovan constituencies, be them in Moldova or across the diaspora. We talk about targeting also Western publics to delegitimize Moldova's pro-European trajectory, to delegitimize the incumbent government, and to then trust in the voting itself through different types of allegations. And understanding these types of behavior enabled us to do a very granular and detailed analysis of findings, which we were able to present publicly from the very beginning in a very interactive manner, developing tools that allow you to explore the different patterns. Another interesting corpus of data was provided by Wikimedia Foundation in France. And we were able to test some theories about how Wikipedia itself, a collaborative knowledge space, is actively being manipulated. And how certain pages that have to do, for instance, with Moldova's accession process to the EU have been deliberately manipulated to reflect certain narratives, to sow mistrust. It was not only to do with how should I call it, the more recent accession process, but also with historical topics. For instance, the unification between Moldova and Romania, which is a very poorly resourced topic, or those pages in different languages pertaining to the Transnistrian topic conflict. So we were able to gather all these insights and also to collaborate across European consortiums, and Attila has been extremely helpful, and they were able to provide us in advance with a TikTok corpus on a very specific candidate that didn't really register in the polls, but then he surprisingly raised up and has won about how many? 6 parliamentary seats. Yeah. So this is just the overview. I guess we can transition towards the others' insights, and I'm happy to go back.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Andra, Lucia, for this introduction. Marius, from your perspective also as one of the co-authors, what surprised you most by looking at the data? Was it the scale, the speed, the coordination, or the way the narrative was evolved and progressed?
So thank you as well for the invitation. I'll just add that coming for this project, for this analysis, for me came up from a curiosity, from a technical perspective. What's going on over the internet? I knew from TikTok from the early beginnings. I knew it that will come up as a, let's say, as a political weapon under all these, let's say, funny videos which they deliver. I saw that when the war in Ukraine started, mainly that it was also used as a propaganda, let's say, channel. For me, coming up within the Romanian elections and also follow up the Moldovan elections, I was a bit surprised that the authorities didn't do anything, or they weren't aware that something like this will come up from the first place. As I said, my curiosity, it was just to have an explanation from all these new candidates come up within the space online on how they influence the public and what we can do about it. And on the things which I did before this research, I was also, and I spoke also with Attila back then in the Romanian elections in regards to TikTok monitoring. We built a tool and we try to investigate what we can do about it. We managed to get some data out of there to build some artifacts about it. And the problem which I noticed is that the speed of reaction, right? So they, let's say, flood the online space, the media with a lot of content, a lot of nationalistic content. And you, as an authority, you don't have the tools, you don't have the capacity to respond in time. So they take advantage of this and they just push narratives, right? And the more the merrier. On their side, we don't have the time to react. We don't have the time to think. We take it for granted, everything which it comes. And just to come back to the question, I would say that I'm quite grateful from Andra, Lucia side with the data which I got for analysis, and the report which she did. I think it's a treasure from inspirance. So you can get a lot of inspiration how all these things works, how they are preparing and how they are connecting, how they are delivering different messages. And I would say that for me, from a technical perspective, gave me the opportunity to do some innovation in regards to building a platform, a system that can give us a bit more, not real time, but closely, a bit faster response when comes up with, say, discovering coordinated attacks, all these things which are quite valuable, and we don't have, or we didn't have the expertise previously. And so this is the most important thing, that we managed to build up and to innovate around all these topics with some new tools which can be used and can be integrated, hopefully, in the unregulated environment of social media in the future. So we can have a better way and a more versatile response to what is coming.
Thank you, Marius. And thanks, Andra, Lucia, for sharing the link to the report in the chat. Attila, you are an investigative journalist. Can you give us some insights into, your field of work and what your role was in this whole investigation and report writing?
Right. So definitely, and I'll showcase a little bit of the technology, because it's actually something that we built, and I need to thank Marius and Andra for our cooperation. I need to tell you that for the Romanian election, that created a bit of, chaos in the region. Andra was the one that actually named Russia as the country that interfered in our election in the digital space. So that's something that it was for us. It created also the possibility to give to our readers a bit of clarity in a moment where everybody was uncertain of what happened. So thank you again, and our partnership, it's something that I cherish a lot. So for the Moldovan election, we from the perspective of a journalist, we looked at the election in we had a strategy to look at in several ways. So we looked at the digital interference, which we mapped with our own tool that I'll showcase a little bit later. Then we went into a bit of follow the money and investigations, where we did a few stories. One in particular, I think it's something that should be you should be aware. There is the powerful operation, interference operation from Russia related to the Orthodox Church. There is the offline and online push to create this parallel reality that the Orthodox Church is oppressed in our countries and around the election. And here we will see also in the future a bit of joint interference from Russia and our friends from across the ocean. But for the Moldovan election, we looked at the digital interference, we looked at these offline things, and also we went on the field and we tested whatever we have seen on the digital in the platforms. We tested with on the ground report around Moldova and in the area of Transnistria. So we double checked that information. But I think one of the most interesting findings was that the heavy use of AI generated videos for the info ops that we have seen in Moldova. And if you'll let me just share a little bit my screen. Okay. So this is our tool that we have built in our this info hub, the fact hub, that it's part of EDMO. And here for Moldova, we analyzed 21,000 TikTok posts, and the system is able to flag that 20% have, let's say, toxic type of content. This is something that we are prompting the software to detect. This is the detection part, which analyzes the content. But what we have found is that a lot of this content or this type of AI generated videos that were actually pushed into this ecosystem of 130 accounts about 9 months previous to the election. We are able to determine this, to detect the accounts that are putting out this content because we have a discovery feature. So here we input hashtag sounds, keywords, and if we have some profiles, and the system tries to discover if we have other accounts that push the same type of content. So if you look at this account that we are now highlighting, you'll see that you don't even need to look too much. So they have like a lot of AI things put there. So this is how we validated tens and tens of accounts that they put information there. And then we looked at also the algorithm manipulation, which is most interesting part of our software because we collect metadata and we can correlate the behavior of an account when it comes to comments, likes, and reshares and things like that. And we see here that we have an account that has 440 comments. And if we analyze it a little bit more, we see that the system analyzed 500 posts with 719 comments, of which 440 are the very same comment. And then we go and we observe that the same account commented, like the same thing on its own page. So it's a way to gain the system and make it believe that needs to be viral, needs to be put in the for you page. This is documented. There are several papers that show the fact that the TikTok algorithm, it's a reward point system, and this is how some of these operations are put in place. Yes, so this was one of the investigations that we're able to carry out, and also with the help of the prompt initiative, we joined forces, and the data that we collected we analyzed together, and it showed again this type of behavior. And I will leave it here. Thank you.
Thanks very much. As we, of course, are very interested in political tech, like the platform that you are presenting right now, can you give us also a bit of an insight? And I don't know who would be the best person to speak to this, how you developed this kind of platform. So how was this actually, programmed?
I mean, at the let's say from the perspective of our context, so we have a developer, Daniel. He knows the technical part. So if you want technical details, for sure we can put you in contact with him. Or obviously, whoever does this type of investigation analysis, just contact us and we'll provide help and analysis. The system is pretty powerful. We tested the maximum amount of data that we can analyze is about 50,000 TikTok posts per day. Now we are a little bit again, we are rewriting it because TikTok made changes, but we will be able to run it again. So we built the system starting from our investigations that we carried out in 2022. When we have seen with the invasion of Ukraine, we seen this wave of disinfo that swept the EU. And then first we mapped out with also manually, but with some tools, we mapped out the infrastructure composed of websites, and Telegram channels and some Facebook accounts, and we mapped out the pro-Russian infrastructure in Romania and 7 other countries. At the same time, we have seen TikTok that increased, so we saw that the volume of data on TikTok is so big, so we took the procedure that we use to analyze content and behavior on websites, on Facebook and other platforms, and we built this tool. What it's doing, it scrapes TikTok based on a target list. So first you need to have a list. Then if you now we have the feature of discovery, so we can do that as well. Once it scrapes it, it transcribes the text, and then we have an AI that we prompted with a complex prompt to analyze the content, but against kind of curated base of information. And this is how it flags content. So it flags content that we should look into it. At the same time, it scrapes the metadata, and there's where we made correlation and we looked into this inauthentic behavior, because it's more easier to see if an account reshared thousands of clips, posted hundreds of comments. And this is something that we actually seen again and again. So it's a pipeline that we are building, and we are building it also based on our observation and other experts' observation in this field.
Thank you. Now that the election is over, and I suppose the analysis and the machine will continue to run, have you noticed a change? Has the pressure of disinformation and hybrid interference receded? Has it become less, or is it basically the same as it was before? I don't know who would be the best to comment on this.
I'll start with an insight from the elections, and it's something that we've noticed even in comparison to Romania's last year presidential elections, and that was a simultaneous targeting. Of course, there were elections in Moldova, but then Ukraine was also targeted in the same corpus of disinformation content, and also Romania that's transitioning somewhat of an economic and financial crisis at the moment. So it's just, I think it's about the capability of template the same narratives and then applying them to different contexts to attack simultaneously. And that's something we've noticed from the data. It may be about Moldova's elections, but it was definitely not limited to it. And we see the same retemplating in different contexts that try to escalate a crisis. And we see them repeated again in Romania.
Thank you. Now, do you see that there has been a lot of knowledge transfer from Romania to Moldova, basically following what happened? I mean, the impression was there were some lessons learned. Now, Marius, you said before, people still didn't seem to be really prepared. So what's your take on this? Have there been lessons learned and applied? Or could it have been more that actually was and should have been used?
From the Moldovan election, I would say that it was already a different story. And so I think Romania was first on the line, like the first soldiers who was, let's say, put it down from this perspective. I think the ones, let's say, the public organizations who take care of, let's say, the media control, also the police. It was a different story within the Moldovan election. Also, they have different laws, I would say, outside of EU right now. They can get, let's say, your citizenship, Moldovan citizenship, if you do something like traitors or something like that. So they have more power, they have more freedom. Of course, they had a bit more support, I would say, from the European Union, also from the Romanian authorities and the other surrounds, and also all this lesson learned from our side, from the Romanian side experiences, they did, I would say, a better job, right? And this is mainly something which Andra, Lucia, and the others observed as well, just looking at the data and also seeing what's going on online, just seeing that all this manipulation that, for instance, worked within the Romanian environment didn't work so much within the Moldovan election. So it was mainly a complete cut of all these narratives by the end of the day. Also, the videos or the content was taken offline a little earlier. And also another change, I would say, from the TikTok side, they had a special group which was taking care and monitoring the elections, which in Romania didn't happen. I suppose from what I know, TikTok was having an outsourced company. They outsourced the monitoring, the moderation of the content. So basically, I don't think they had interest of stopping the content or they didn't know that they will come up. But from my experience within the Romanian election and also from the Moldovan a bit, in the Romanian election, it seems that it was very much programmed, and it wasn't the AI algorithm which was programmed. From my experience working with cognitive AI and a lot with technical details, I would say that that was a human hand was doing all these things. Yeah, so I have some experience with the media. I know how this works and how you can do advertising, either do propaganda. On the other hand, this was a handmade content. Yeah, so you can call it manufacture or something, but really, really very well targeted, quite well sustained. I noticed also in the Romanian election one funny thing that at least one of the candidates on the far right, we knew at least where he's going next. If he's flying to Italy or Poland or stuff like that, I saw the content which was switched to that direction. So I would see in my feed in let's say in before he's jumping there or arriving to that location, I would see content from that region. And this is something which, sorry to say, no AGI today it's possible to do than to have a brain, a human brain behind.
Thank you. By the way,
I don't fully agree with the fact that TikTok, yes, indeed, let's say they're mimicking communication and openness to tackle these issues, but in reality, it's tremendously insignificant to the level of to the level the content proliferates and mobilizes audiences. And we've had this problem when we signaled the same campaign happening in Romania. They provided a number of accounts in their view that were posting coordinated content and maximizing it and amplifying it. And we came with a completely different number. And well, the issue, I guess, is still being investigated. But I wouldn't say the platforms are very amenable to taking down the content because it's extremely profitable for them, no matter the abuse that happens. So I wouldn't say our democratic interests align with how the algorithms are structured.
I would just add, sorry, I would just add for Moldova that one of the, I would say, we should not presume that in Moldova there is no expertise. They have, I think, one of the best expertise on fighting this info ops, and at the same time, what they did very well is that they doubled the analysis that experts were doing with investigative work. So, like from the prosecutor's office, they stopped the money flow, which was essential because they could not pay as Marius said, the human operators of several of these initiative to gain algorithm to put out this info. So there were like a lot of money seized by prosecutors and police, and that was of real help because on the ground, our reporters went on the ground, and people were telling, we are not going to this time. We are not working for these guys because we are not paid. So that was efficiently done. And as for the platforms, just a general statement, what we have seen is that they are not keen to take down infrastructure. They're keen to take down if you specific posts, specific clips, specific things, but not the infrastructure. So which Andra documented in several times, it's let's say cross-border regional infrastructure that it's sometimes it goes to Moldova, sometimes to Romania, and you see those overlaps, and Andra documented that very well in several iterations.
Thank you. By the way, Leona, thank you very much for your post. She said she cannot find the report online under the link. Andra, Lucia, perhaps you can post the direct link for the report.
I don't think I can. I was trying and I can only post to hosts and panelists. If you can possibly put it on the general chat, that's the link to the interactive report. I'll send it to you. 1 second.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's the same link, right? So perhaps I don't know if there's any more, or I don't know. Perhaps we can share the report with the newsletter that we're sending out next week. But if there's a kind of a more direct link than this one, or the link is the report, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yes, perhaps there's a misunderstanding, Leona.
Yeah, no, that's the interactive version of
Okay,
with,
I understand.
yeah.
Great. Well,
For a better read because then you can explore the graphs and you have like bits of the data. Yeah.
thank you. So, of course, 2026 is another important election year. So, for one of the countries that are voting is Hungary, and I think we can expect also some operations there. So, if you basically took your learnings and then applied them to Hungary, or also, of course, importantly, France is voting in 2027. So, how would you advise policymakers? How would you advise political actors that want to, ideally prevent or at least deal with hybrid interference more competently than perhaps was done in the past, and apply those learnings? What would you advise them? What would be your one, two most important advices that you give them individually? Andra, starting with you.
To catch up and fast. Because this is the rift, I guess, our analytical capabilities, being able to detect this sort of coordinated behavior has really advanced, like from one electoral cycle to the other. Unfortunately, we still think in terms at the policy decision-making level, we still think in terms of borders, of jurisdictions. And it's not possible to tackle these operations just seeing them as isolated phenomena. And of course, I know the EU doesn't have in-house capabilities for real-time analysis, which we've developed. We've really developed now, including very complex validations. I mean, how you extract the coordinated behavior and you validate. Yes, indeed, this is coordinated and it infringes upon the DSA or upon national legislation, so on and so forth. But it's always this rift. It's this extractive behavior that everybody wants to accumulate data, but in the end, you don't really have the capacity to analyze it in real time and take informed decisions. Being able to communicate strategically before all these narratives amplify and then become organic within public discourse, within the societies that themselves become polarized. So I think that's the main challenge.
Thank you. Do you see a change on the way there now with the, Democracy Shield, for example? Do you see any kind of measure in there, or plans that you think will address this, or try to rectify this?
I'm optimistic and I really welcome the initiative, but you need even greater coordination than what it is.
Thank
And
you.
you need to account for constituencies that are invisible, the diasporas. There is some realization, let's say, within the EU that, of course, the diasporas are targeted both as vectors and conduits of influence campaigns. But what do you do? Because the jurisdictions are again porous. Like, how do you act on this phenomenon? So I guess it's a lot of catching up.
Thank you, Marius. What would your advice be to policymakers and political actors that want to be, not safer necessarily, if that's possible, but want to deal better and want to be more effective?
And one of the things which I noticed, and if the election it's passing, that doesn't mean that the danger it's ended. And that this is my impression. And they just look at the calendar, which country is next, right? And you said about Hungary, France, it will come up also Germany and the other countries for Europe, and they will the ones which they did that in Georgia or Azerbaijan or Moldova and so on, they will try to expand this attacking, because it's a hybrid war, it's a cognitive war. This is all about, and mainly we have to kind of come up together with all this knowledge to share it and to be able to collaborate and to build kind of a defense around it. Right? This is mainly what we have to do. Of course, even for us, it was quite new. We managed to understand quite quickly and to build some tools around it. We are able, as I said earlier in the beginning, to enable through some APIs, we can do some integrations with a bit of live data so we can respond a bit more quickly. My question would be for you, for the community, if this it's against the law and what we can do about it, because our reporting has not only proof that there is some coordination, there is scientific proof, right? So we managed to build these kind of things. The question is, would this be helpful, and what we can do in order to I don't know, not just do some sanctions in order to protect ourselves, because we have democratic around us. We are open, not like there are some discussions now on Twitter that the EU is stopping or it's doing a lot of anti-free speech movements, I would say. But we have to build some, let's say, a better we have to wake up in a moment to realize that we are under threat, and mainly this is happening.
Thanks very much. Attila, what would be your main recommendation or a couple of recommendations to policymakers and political actors alike?
Yeah, I mean, looking into the system and the analysis that we all do, I would say that the politicians will stop legislating this because they will say we don't want to go into the free speech. But the solution is to look at this from, let's say, a mathematical point of view. Because with the tools, with the knowledge that all experts like Andra, like Marius have built, the proof it's mathematical. If we agree that algorithm manipulation and this type of operations are harmful to the people, then let's say the criminalization, the let's say documentation of this, it's mathematical. We don't even need to look at the content. We can like obscure the content, and if we're looking at the algorithm manipulation, how it's done at this scale, then you have the answer, which will overpassed the discussion of this is my opinion, this is your opinion, and whatever. So I would go into this type of thinking and looking at the problem from a strictly operational point of view. And also, we need to increase, to double down this with in financial investigation, because at one point there is money involved. You know, like we are seeing in Moldova, heavily used crypto. Like there is this Moldovan oligarch that controls a huge infrastructure of crypto payments and cryptocurrency that put out that went in his system. They went 8 billion US dollars. That's huge. That's something that we need to stop. You know, like this guy opened up subsidiaries in Hungary where there's not gonna be election next year, right? So we need to double down on these financial investigations. And from my perspective, at the level of the European Prosecutor's Office and several prosecutors' office, there should be like, increased capability to investigate this. And we need to train judges, prosecutors to understand the phenomenon, because probably now if a prosecutor wants to investigate this, he will not know how to do it. So they need to gain the knowledge that Andra and Marius have already built for this.
Thank you very much. We are approaching the end of tonight, so let me remind the audience, if you have questions, comments, thoughts, please feel free to contribute while you still have the chance. My last question to you would be, to every one of you, can you give us some insight what 2026 will bring for you? So can you give us some ideas of what the next projects will be that you plan to be working on so we can keep them on the radar? Andra.
It's exactly what Attila mentioned. We're currently investigating the money flows, what goes into destabilization campaigns. How can we trace it? Where do we trace it? Where it originates? Because I think it's also such an important layer and mostly overlooked. And I guess this project, this investigation, it will be in peer review in comes January, February, and then hopefully published in February. So please watch the space, and we'll let you know. It promises to be big and interesting, big and
Great.
beautiful.
Please share with us and let us know so we can share also in the newsletter, which, of course, Lucy just posted. Thankfully, we have a newsletter with several thousands of political professionals from across Europe and the world. So if you haven't already subscribed, please do, and also follow us on LinkedIn. Adela has a question. Are you open to collaborations with researchers, for instance, on deepfake detection? How can we contact you? And Attila already responded with his email address. So I guess that it counts as a yes.
Yes, definitely. And deepfakes are the next thing that we want to build. Our ideas to build the same pipeline for deepfake videos as we do with the disinfo and coordinated text. So anybody who, I mean, yesterday I just tested some tools that are available for that. So yeah, if we can join forces, we are happy to do that.
Very good.
Likewise.
So at least from my side, I would just say that my focus is for the explainable AI topics, just how I can make it a bit more controllable, explainable, exactly what the EU AI Act is requiring, and almost no one currently is available to do it in the AI space. I'm happy that through this collaboration we managed to do a lot of, let's say, advancement in this field. Quite happy to, let's say, do even more validations, I guess. With Attila, we did something about Mega 25. We did basically another validation around beside the Moldovan.
That's a narrative that it's gonna come up a lot, and
yeah,
we see that US is doing exactly that. So
exactly. So if we have other capabilities for other threats, I think we are a bit more prepared than we've been some months ago. This is one thing which I'm pretty sure that we have today. We have a different capability which we developed in the meantime. On the other hand, I think the new year will come up with new challenges. So let's see how we're gonna respond to this.
Of course, let's also see how the German regional elections will go. So there's, of course, always a lot of potential clouds on the horizon, but I think, Marius, what you just said, there is also some positive progress. There are some signs that we are more capable, that people are actually learning, that institutions, slow as they may be sometimes, also take stuff on board and hopefully are able to better fight or at least deal with some of those hybrid interference and threats. I think on this note, I want to thank very much all three. Thank you very much, Andra, Lucia, Marius, and Attila, for sharing your insights, for sharing your expertise. It's been really great. As I've said, the recording will be made available, and also the summary will be in the newsletter. Looking forward to your work and following it in the new year. Until then, I wish you a very good evening, all the best, and until 2026 then, hopefully at the Political Tech Summit.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
thank you. Good
All the
night.
best.
See you.
Bye-bye.